Hi, this is Keery Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Fritz Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse podcast. I'm Josh Modell. We've got a bit of a strange one for you this week. Back during the darkest days of the pandemic, we hosted an Instagram live chat between Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips and actor-musician Joe Keery, who at the time was best known as part of the cast of Stranger Things. But Keery is also a musician, having released music with his band Post Animal, and he was just starting to release music under the name Joe. That's D-J-O. Keery had a pretty big viral hit with a Joe song this year. You may have heard End of Beginning. If you haven't, check out a little bit of it right here. Anyway, we figured that a lot of folks may have missed that conversation, so now would be the perfect time to resurface it in slightly edited podcast form. These two had never met, but they jump into a great chat about songwriting, Miley Cyrus's house, which is where Coyne was dialing in from, and lots more, including how Coyne and his Flaming Lips bandmate Steven Drozd are like French fries and salt, about how listening is equally vital in music and acting, and much more. Enjoy.
Oh, all right. Now, hey, this is Wayne Flaming Lip. Now I think I'm on the Talkhouse Instagram Live, and I'm getting ready to talk with Joe. Stranger Things Joe. Post Animal Joe. There he is. Oh my God!
Wow!
You did it! You did it!
Wow! The adventure.
I mean, It is. It's so amazing. I mean, really, to me, the rest of this we could just sit here and know that it worked, and I would be fine.
And just congratulate each other for actually getting onto this thing. Sorry about that.
Is it difficult, or I mean, we just have never done it, so it's
no.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in this cool room.
Yeah. Where are you?
Well, we're at Miley Cyrus's house up in the Studio City, up in the hills, and she's doing something else, and we're staying at her house. But we've invaded her sort of promotion room. She has a new song out, and
it's like a disco ball. You got a full forest behind you.
Look like I think like a disco in Miami Beach or something.
Exactly. It looks like Miami Vice. You're on the set of Miami Vice. Yeah, I'm actually just on the other side of the hill from you. I live over in Hollywood, so I'm just, at home hanging out, just kind of. How crazy though? Are all these fires kind of? Is the smoke pretty bad where you're at right now?
We hadn't seen anything yet. I mean, we went for a walk this morning, and it seemed like just a normal, sort of California sky. People have been sending me pictures of the fires, but we haven't seen any around here. I'd love to see some. I mean, I know that sounds
just crazy. Just all the, I know what you're talking about. I mean, just all the ash. I mean, it's really kind of scary. It's like,
when we were driving in today, we didn't know if it was like a dust storm or if it was a bunch of smoke from fires. So we weren't really listening to any news, The
past few days, it's been kind of like, I thought it was like cloudy, but I think it's actually just really, I think it's just a bunch of like haze and ash and smoke and stuff.
Or just smog. No, I don't know. I always hate to say that it looks cool if people's houses are burning and stuff. I mean, I'm just yeah.
Crazy. Anyways, I'm doing good. I'm just kind of hanging in there. Pleasure to talk to you. Huge fan. Glad that we could, hop on. I'm kind of pinching myself. I gotta say it.
Well, we're fans of yours. I mean, we don't know all your music, but now you've got your solo. This is your solo thing that's just out.
Yeah. I worked, actually while I was shooting the show, I was working on music. I just have always done it as kind of like it's great when we're on set or working, as an actor to just like have something else creative to do that you can actually take control over,
Well, I always say, any creative person that isn't doing music, I mean, not everything else, you could be doing everything else, but if you weren't doing music, you would want to do music. Everything in the world, every visual thing, no matter what, it's like you'd always need music. I think I'm mostly like a visual creative person. But then when I was like 16 or 17, I was just like, I know, but I want to see what music is all about. And it's like, I don't see how anybody it's just too enticing. It's like you just want to mess with it and see what's going on. I mean, obviously musicians. I mean, I don't consider myself a musician. That's why I say it that way. Obviously.
You don't consider yourself a musician?
I really don't, only because I'm around some really insanely, next level musicians. And then I know, oh, I'm not one of those. I feel the
same. I totally connect to that. I feel the same way. I feel like I just have so many friends who are talented, and, I feel like in your music, especially this new album, is the same way. Like the arrangement part of things really seems to be very strong, especially on this album for you guys. It's like, is that kind of what you most enjoy, is like the arrangement and the writing stuff? Or when you say you're not a musician, do you mean you're like, not a so sort of player or whatever?
I mean, some of the guys in the group would be like performers, but I've definitely performed a lot now that I've been in the Flaming Lips since, the early 80s or whatever, but I still don't think of it as like, it's just scary. I mean, we love to make records. And so that part of it always worked for us. There was a while where we thought we could just be like one of these, I don't know if people even remember like who Steely Dan is, or like the way that, Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys would be, where you just make records and you don't go out and play,
Really? That's crazy, because I feel like your live show is such a huge part of your guys. Now it's like this, like, I've been to a few of your shows, and it's like a big element is, and I think a draw to people is the live shows.
That's what I mean. It's such a bizarre thing because, I think we made the show so it didn't seem like it was about us. That sounds dorky, but like when you go to see, I don't know, like someone like Beyonce or Rihanna, I'm sure, I mean, I'm not in a bad way, but I'm sure they sit backstage like, you motherfuckers are coming to watch me. You motherfuckers get a treat because you're going to get to watch me. And we're not like that. We sit back there and we hope like the lights are working and the video works and the PA works and, like everything works. And then we feel like, oh, good. Well, we can stand here and sing our songs while all this stuff is working. And I think that's this insane show. And, and we accept, we're part of the show, and being there and being personable and being, part of the experience. But I don't think we would ever want it to see. I mean, I'm even doing this thing with you with gadgets. You're bravely. I'm
sitting in my boring room, and you're in a full club. You're in Miley Cyrus's personal club.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like it was bad, but Wayne's lighting looked great.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and I don't mean that as like a cop out. It's just that's always been our thing, is just we love making records, and we kind of feel like we'll just keep making them until people say, no, we don't want your records, or you can't make them or put them out anymore. So we thought it would only last like 1 or 2 records, and now we've been doing it where it's going to be like 40 years before too long. So just insanely lucky, but not like, I didn't get into it to think like, man, we're like the Beatles, I mean,
sure.
Weirdos getting to do our thing. And then now, well, this has happened. Now I'm talking to you.
I feel like that's the way to like kind of do it for a long time, or at least I hope, is just to, if you really truly enjoy making the music, it seems like that is truly the way forward, is that if you just love doing it enough, and hopefully there's an audience for people that, people listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, whatever drives people, I mean, there's a million mechanisms, that let you say this is worth doing. I mean, the greatest thing that can happen is that you get to connect with other musicians and artists, and they say, I mean, even like doing this thing with you, where like, oh my God, we were watching Stranger Things before anybody even knew it was cool. And then, the next thing we know, everybody said it's cool. And we're like, well, maybe it is. No. So, but I mean, but that to me is the most rewarding part of it, is that you really do get to talk to other, because you're doing art, because you put yourself out there, it allows you to be able to like talk to other cool people. And I love nothing more. I mean, I'm a fan of everybody too. I love nothing more than talking to other artists and musicians and actors and filmmakers and anybody that does anything cool. It's just insane to be able to talk to them, Is this how interviews go with you all the time?
No, it's great. I honestly prefer this. This is kind of nice. It's just like that was something that I think is really appealing about this, is just being able to like talk to another creative person about like what they do and what they, also as like a young musician, kind of just trying to figure out what I'm doing, how I want to go about, making music and stuff. It's just cool to hear you talk,
You write the songs. You're the guy that writes the songs, and you're the singer, and you're basically our producer.
Well, so for the record that I released about a year ago, that was the case. And then the record was produced, me and my buddy and partner, Adam Tyne, we worked on that record together kind of after I had written everything. For this new song, me and Adam both wrote it together. And man, what a joy. It's just like being able to collaborate on music and see something through from beginning to end. It's just it's like a child. It's so fun to, see something that it was just a little small grain of salt in your mind grow to this, fully realized thing. I just really love the collaboration process. It's so
Do you
fun.
feel like when you're doing like your own music and your own songs, and that it's different than being like directed, like you're just a piece of this bigger thing and someone's giving you direction and you're a character? Or for me, I do so many things where I'm the guy in charge. I love to be told what to do. I mean, if it's by someone that knows what they're doing or whatever, I'm take direction and say, good, it's not my vision. It's not my dilemma. And I think sometimes people think it's the other way around, that no matter what situation you're in, you'd be like, all right, it's got to be my shit. But it's like, I'm not like,
sure. I enjoy that. I love being able to like sit back. I mean, I guess the reason maybe I started recording music and trying to release it was because I felt the other way. I was like ready to take control and see something through all the way. But I truly do enjoy being able to work under the Duffer Brothers and just be able to play this small part in this really amazing thing that they've created, because it's their baby. And it's so they have fully realized this thing.
If you're doing something cool and you get to do something cool with cool people, that's all. That's enough. It doesn't have to be number one. It doesn't have to make $1 billion. It's like, that's enough right there. Even if it never even gets put out, you could sit there and say, when I was doing it, it was great. And everybody was working hard and we did cool stuff. To sacrifice all your time and all your work. I mean, sacrifice is a bad word, but to think I'm only going to do this because I want to make money and I want to be famous or whatever. There's no way that's ever going to work. I mean, people must do it or whatever, but it's like, there's no way that's ever going to work because there's too many other options now. So
and you'll be so unhappy too. You'd be like, I just feel like you would be truly unhappy if that's the what's fueling the fire.
Well, it seems like people are unhappy anyway. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, if you're like in the studio or making music with your friends and truly enjoying it and working with people that think are really creative and amazing, there it is. You know what I mean? That's the best part, I feel like.
If you're creative and you're around other creative people, then you know what being creative is. And so, yeah, it's got a thrill about it. So you being known mostly as an actor, would you say?
Yeah.
And didn't feel like, okay, people know me as an actor, but now I'm going to do music, or you didn't care about that, or you didn't consider that, or doesn't matter?
I think it's kind of like can be sort of treacherous. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to like put the music out, and if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. But I wrote it, and there it is, and just see what sort of happened. I didn't. You want to kind of step carefully because you want people to enjoy the music because the music is good or it means something to them rather than because of some other thing that you've done, I guess is the
well point. I think it's impossible to separate it. It's impossible to say, well, if you're here, but to me, it's like, you just have to do it because, I mean, there's 1,000, I mean, I'm sitting in Miley Cyrus's house. That's why I say it.
There you go.
Time when people thought that she just an actor, and now I think it's been, I mean, I'm sure that's probably always going to be with her, but there's a lot of people that just think that she does music. So, but her character did music, in the show. So it was kind of like, well, but yeah, that part of it is always like, well, did you feel like it's egotistical to do that?
Yeah, you worry about it, sort of. You don't,
I mean, I don't know. That's to me, like, just creative people. I always sort of feel like, especially like you said at the very beginning of the thing, it's like you have other things you want to do. I mean, I feel the same way about being in a band. I mean, I love how much stuff that being in the Flaming Lips that I get to do. But there's a lot of times when you're on tour that your day is just filled up with, I mean, it's not miserable, but it's just sort of like you're in an airport and then you're sitting there for sound check and you're really only doing music sometimes for like an hour out of, 60 hours you spend trying to do it, which is great because you're doing stuff with people and your friends and all that. But for me, I mean, I just don't want to just do that all the time. That's why I'm always like, I'm painting and I'm making movies and we do music videos and we sometimes put out 2 or 3 records even a year because it's like that part of it. I guess it's like the maintenance of trying to be a rock star is just too much time involved where you're not doing anything, and it requires pay money to come and see you. It's just such a big responsibility. And so, I mean, for me, that's where it gets a little bit like, I just like doing other stuff, and
how do you stay like fresh? What stuff do you do to stay creatively charged when you're, on the road or when you're at home? Do you after a big tour, what do you do to unwind and, kind of get back into the creative mind space?
Yeah. I don't really have that. I've got so many ridiculous ideas, but I don't ever think my ideas are like the greatest thing ever. I just start to do stuff. I don't really think like, oh, I've got to make the greatest record ever, and that you have these other people too. I mean, you talking about collaboration. I mean, for me, music and collaboration is why it's so like, it's just almost impossible to describe what music does to you. People would always think of like being a painter. That's just you painting in your room or something, and even like being like a director, it's like, I sort of feel like being a big time movie director, like a Martin Scorsese or, Alfred Hitchcock or something, that's just them. And they're telling everybody what to do.
Yeah. Right.
But you really don't want that. I mean, I go into it where I have a little bit of an idea, but I think that's my superpower is like, I'll just feel like I can finish it. I can do it no matter what it is, and I think that's even what you were at the beginning. It's like just to know you had this little idea and then it became a record. It became a song. It became something that's, you got out of your mind and now is in the world. So that part of it, I just never really get tired of it. It's always inspiring and you just get to make stuff. But it would be horrible to think that you're trying to have another number 1 hit record or.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's when it flies. This is something that always really interests me with musicians. Like when you have an idea or when you're working on a song, is it something that I guess it probably varies case by case, but will you try to see something through in one sitting? I was actually talking about this with Adam. We've been working recently where we've set like kind of mini restrictions or goals for ourselves. And recently one of the goals is like, well, let's just try to finish this song. We've got 5 hours. Let's just like sit down, get the structure. Maybe it's not perfect.
I find that truly creative people love a little bit of juice to say, okay, it's got to be done now. I mean, we're always asking for any input that you can get, any deadline that you can get, at least gives you some reason to do it now as opposed to doing it later tonight or next week. Yeah. I mean, we're always doing that. And plus you just run out of time and you run out of money. Out of whatever you were doing, you can always change your mind. I mean, that's the part of it, to get it to where it's outside of you and then you can listen to it and other people can listen to it and you can start to get some idea of it. Is it any good? I hear people talk about that all the time. In my head, it was great. It's like, well, yeah, that's what that would be true for everybody, but then as soon as you try to get it out of your head, you realize, oh, that's a Beatles song I've been singing. No wonder it's great.
But no, I mean, it's to talk about like other people's process. That's a real cool thing about collaborating with different people that I love too, is that you can kind of like get a little window into how other people work. You can almost like sort of try on little things or tricks that they do, whether it be like something like technical or just like ways that they think, you know what I mean? I just love being able to do that. It's so cool.
I mean, like with the way that Steven and I work, I mean, he's such an insane musician that I would never have any clue as to what he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
And then he knows in a way, like I'm going to make a song out of nothing. It doesn't really matter. But if he gives me like something that's already fantastic and he knows I can make that into a song, we're off and running, Yeah. So, like in the way that we're collaborating, he's doing something that I'm never going to do. And I'm doing something he's never going to do. I always say, what we do to each other's stuff is we're the salt to each other's French fries. So we think about this equation. The potato and the French fry is like doing all the work. No one would ever just say, here's some fucking salt, But to me, French fries without salt is like, I don't care. I don't want to eat it. It's just a bunch of greasy, bland potatoes. But a little bit of salt, I'm like, it's the best thing ever,
Yeah.
But with potato, without the grease, without the temperature being right, it's nothing. But so that's what I always say we're doing to each other's stuff. It's like he's bringing me this great cooked, perfect French fry, and he knows, like, you got to give me some salt, brother. And I say same thing to him.
Yeah. How perfect, though, that like you guys have found each other and linked. Isn't that crazy that it just worked out that way, that you found each other?
Yeah. I mean, it's the most insane luck ever. It really is. I mean, I didn't even realize it at the time it was happening because I didn't know how great of a musician he was. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how ridiculously unmusical I was. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm pretty cool. I can do this, And then little by little, we started to make records and records. A little bit. I was like, I don't know anything. And here I am working with this guy that knows everything. But I think that's the thing about music. It is just making cool sounds. There's nothing more to it. It's like, if people like what you do, it doesn't matter what it is or how it works. It's like, cool, you're doing it, And I know music has a lot of great, theories and ways of making stuff, which is wonderful because it's so dense and complicated and all that, especially to make emotional music, But I don't know what that spark is that makes it, that works. I mean, even listening to the little bit of your brand new music that I heard, I was like, this is going to be great, because it's like you just automatically in the first 20 seconds, you kind of feel like, this is cool. This is interesting. It sounds cool. It sounds interesting. And then without knowing, all the things that you're singing about right away, I always like that first, where it's like, I like this vibe. This sounds cool. I know a little bit about you. I know a little bit about your life, a little bit and all.
That's completely just gut. It's a gut thing. I think that's also such a talent in music to have that gut instinct and to really trust it it's huge. It's like the guiding light almost,
Listening is the great superpower, I mean, so many times
acting too, the listening. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole game. If you're a great listener,
Well, that's what I mean. It's like people don't realize, even though, people think it's about performing and talking and having something to say. Maybe so, but it is really more about just you're listening and you're trying to understand and you're hearing this and hearing that. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know if you're doing it. You have to listen to your own music. Sometimes people talk about that as like, I never listen to my own music or whatever. I'll be like, well, how would you know if it's doing anything? We're making our music, but I sort of feel like it's not just me. I'm listening to all these other guys and Dave Fridman, the producer and everything. It's like, it's wonderful. I don't look at it like it's an ego where I'm just listening to myself. That's like, I'm trying to make this thing. But I just compare it to like a chef in the kitchen making you some food. He's going to taste it, make sure it ain't fucked up,
I completely agree. There it's the same thing I feel like in the acting. If people will say that they can't, watch their own movies or watch their own thing, I think it's just part of getting better. You know what I mean? Even if you're embarrassed, you got to stomach it just so that you can look at it critically.
I totally agree. I mean, whenever I never listen to interviews like this. I mean, I'm glad that people are. Hope it works, and I'm grateful that I'm given this time. I'm to talk to you. It's amazing, but gosh, if I was ever to watch it back, I would just start sweating. It's like, oh my gosh, But I'm hoping that that's a normal reaction to like being in the moment. Are there times when you're doing it, you feel like nailed it, and then you see it later and think, I didn't nail it? And the opposite. Do you think sometimes that didn't work? And then you see it later and you think that really worked?
100%. I'd say all the time that happens, all the time.
And I would say the same thing. It's like there's a conception of like, the universe lines up and you feel it and it absolutely works. And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's like you don't know all the elements that are at play and you don't know the momentum. Obviously, you're in the zone already. And there's a lot of good things, that can possibly happen. But we do that all the time. You're in the middle of making something and, part of you was excited, but like you're saying, you guys put a limit on, like, are we going to work for 5 or 6 hours? Hopefully by the end of it, you're still excited about it, but not often.
Sure.
You know, you start working on it and you say, okay, you know, I'm past the thrill of it or whatever. But then you listen to it later and say, oh man, you know, that was cool, even though we were burned out.
There is something here. There is a little nugget here of something.
Yeah, we struggle with that all the time, to sort of retain the feeling of it as opposed to just keep producing and keep it and make it into sound or whatever. You know, you want that connection. And I don't know how that works. I mean, I really don't.
As somebody who's made like a bunch of different records, I think like a record is such a beautiful piece of art, you know, front to back. It's just this like beautiful sonic little painting, you know. And somebody's made, you know, you've made so many records. Do you kind of have like a different goal going into each one, or do you kind of have you gone into different records wanting different things, or with different things in mind?
Yeah. I mean, in the very beginning, you know, we stumbled upon a couple of songs that we thought, oh, these are like nice little emotional, like heartache, nostalgic type songs. I could hear that with what you were doing. It's like, well, he's got songs, you know, and that's the main thing, you know. And then, I mean, I always say it's sort of like, you know, the gods of music have to help you, you know, otherwise... Truly. You know, you're just kind of swimming in the dark, you know. But if you get a song, you know, so we would get like a song, we think, man, that's got a special vibe to it. Let's not fuck it up, you know. And then we would keep it. And some of these songs we would have for like 2 or 3 years, you know, and just keep trying to get another song that has a similar vibe to it. And then once we would get like 5 or 6 of them, then we would jump into like real work and say, well, let's try to do 4 or 5 in this vein and see if we can really nail it. And sometimes those end up being really your best songs because you're already in a zone. You already kind of know who you are and what you're singing about. And, you know, you've already had a couple of practice runs at it. And so to me, that's a good sign. And then, I mean, even like with some of our older records, even Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots way back in 2002, we had like 6 or 7 of the songs going, but we didn't really know what we were doing. And then the minute I stumbled upon the idea that it was going to be Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, I could see everybody in the room just like, oh, good. Now we know what to do. We know who the characters are and the sounds and everything about it just became more, you know, it was suddenly like, you know, we all knew what the story was, you know. So you want to get to that, but that is no guarantee that it's good. That's just getting excited and being, you know, doing something cool. There's oftentimes we'll start to make a record and we'll just be inspired by other groups. I mean, you know, the guy from the Silver Apples, I saw, sent me some news this morning. He was 82 years old and he had died yesterday. And this is, you know, their first record. I don't remember when it came out, 1969 or something. You know, it's an old record, but we didn't hear it till the late 90s. But once we heard this record, you know, you can't escape it having an impact on you. It must be like when the Beatles heard Jimi Hendrix or something. It's like, there's so much cool shit that if your mind is open, you'd want to make as many records as we have, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to do that. I want to do this, you know? And even when we worked with Miley, you know, back in 2014 and 15, just being in that environment is something we'd never been able to do that. And just being in that environment and working with her and Mike Will is like, it just blew our minds. And we were like, let's make more music like that. It's cool because you want to use that as a new type of paint or a new type of way to make a movie or something. When Sean Lennon gave us this old plastic synthesizer, we recorded some stuff at his big studio up with where they live up upstate New York with Yoko and stuff, you know. And when we were leaving, he gave us this old plastic synthesizer. And once we got it home and plugged it in, it's like we couldn't stop making music with it. I would be the first one to say, you have to allow yourself to be an idiot and you have to allow yourself to be the fool and to be wrong and to withstand embarrassment and all that. But that's what music is. You know, most music is, what's great about it is it's someone saying, I thought I was smart and now I realize I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Who wants to listen to music where everybody's, I'm the smartest motherfucker ever, fuck you. It's like, you know, you want to hear that struggle. I get obsessed with stuff, you know, but it is just dumb music and art, you know. It's that you have to, you know, why not?
Can't take it too seriously. Yeah, I feel,
Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, it's like never sacrifice anything for your art and music. Just make time for it. That's what it is. It's not sacrificing your life. It's like just defend your time. And if you want to do it, try to make time for it. And if you're sacrificing all your relationships and all your friends and all these cool things, I think your music will probably be pretty horrible because it'll just be about your silly little narcissistic self, But most great music isn't made like that. That's why oftentimes I think people are in the middle of making like they're big rock stars flying around the world doing all kinds of crazy shit, and they still make the greatest records ever. Like, when did they have time to do that?
Yeah.
About like the Beatles records, or even like when people talked about Bohemian Rhapsody, craziest fucking song ever, and they're in the middle of doing all kinds of crazy shit. It's not like they sat there for 3 years and thought, oh, we'll do this and do this. Shit happening, So yeah, I mean, I don't know, but mostly it's just dumb luck. But you've got to really, if you're trying hard, I think the gods of music. I'm looking up at the gods of music.
Yeah, that's where they live, is in there.
The gods of music they'll know that you've been working hard, and then they'll say, let's give Joe.
Yeah.
Give
it's
Joe.
Like a little bit of luck, a little bit of work. If the opportunity comes at the right time, you kind of that's the whole. There it is, right?
And then I think they also watch you and say, we gave him a good song. No, he better not fuck this up, And we've done that. Like, we had a great song, and then we didn't know what to do with it. And in time, I think, you try to figure out the way you present it and the way you accept it and the way you can be with it. And, if the greatest thing that can happen is that you write a song and people know you through your song.
Man.
But a lot of people hate that. You don't know me. That's just a song. But for me, I don't say that at all. I mean, when people come up to me and say, I love your song, do you realize, or, or Spoonful Weighs a Ton, or one of those, I'm just, because I'm like, well, you really know me. I mean, I don't know you personally, but you really know me because I'm in that music. And if you like it, then you like me, but the other side of it's true though, too. If you don't like it, then it's like, well, you probably don't like me because.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
We might not get along.
Yeah. That's okay.
I think that's something that I really have come around to. I was really kind of like sonically focused on music for a really long time, but I think in the past like year or two, I've really, really started to enjoy just really listening to lyrics a whole lot more and really trying to, spend more time focusing on my own lyrics. When I kind of wrote the lyrics for the record that has been out for a year, I kind of did so in this like stream of consciousness sort of way where kind of like all these like little scenes or something that kind of give me a feeling, but I'm not sure if it would give someone else a feeling. And it's exactly what you're saying right now. It's like I've had a couple people come up and say, hey, listen, this song like really meant something to me. It's really pretty. It's pretty kind of like shocking and.
But
crazy,
see that. But that thing is that's the truth about music. They seem like they're silly things, but it's not in music. Music. I mean, I always say one of the greatest songs ever. I wish I'd written it. Is the song "Happy Birthday." It's the simplest song ever. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. And then you put the name in, and that's all it is. And it's the most wonderful thing ever, because it's a song. It's not meant to be anything more than a song, And so, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think there's writers like Nick Cave and Bob Dylan whose lyrics alone, are like, my God,
Yeah.
But my songs wouldn't be like that. My songs would just be, weirdo screaming in the dark, thinking, this, I felt this, I felt that, or a lot of times you don't even have lyrics, you have some words and then you have to fill it in with stuff,
Right. Like, that's so difficult though. I think that's like having to fit a meaning in or trying to like fit this thing into this fully existing song. I think that's almost harder, it's almost harder than.
Well, I think it's harder because it's not pure,
No,
I mean, I would love to just be able to walk in with a song that's, you already know, here's an intro and here's the first verse and here's, but you don't. I mean, a lot of times you get to something great, but it's not all the way there, and then you got to ask the gods of music, please help me. We would have 2 or 3 songs and then we'd just put those together. They would be like sort of little songs. And then we'd put, well, that's a little song, put it next to this little song and sort of see if you can connect them,
Great.
And then I do think sometimes you just get lucky that you've just said something and you just sang something and it really worked. I mean, we did Do You Realize, I didn't really know if it was working, but I could tell when Steven was listening to it that he thought it was really working. And so that makes you feel like, oh, well, okay, what do I know? And then when we would play it for Dave Friedman, the producer, he'd be like, well, that really works. And I'd be like, well, good. I mean, I was hoping it worked, but I think you just have to be willing to be embarrassed about, I mean, no one is ever going to say, you wrote 20 shitty songs, bad songs, no one ever really says that. They only know if you have a great song, and it does. Of course, everybody that writes, if you write one great song, you've got 500 shitty ones. Who cares? That's totally. Just the way that things work,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, but super easy to be like precious about stuff too. Like,
Oh yeah.
That can be also, I think, a recipe for disaster. I really connect with this thing you're saying though about like the fool. Just so key for the creative process. It's you can't take yourself too seriously. You're not. I don't know. I'm not a genius. I'm just doing something because it's fun and I enjoy it.
Right. I mean, I think anytime someone thinks they're a genius or tries to be a genius, it's never gonna work. Being a genius isn't up to you. I would just rather you do something really cool and great and it not be in the hands of genius. That to me, that always fucks it up, But yeah, I mean, but there is a thrill in it. And I think that's why it's so fun. It's not really embarrassment. It's just you trying. And when you're around people that are helping you, everybody's in it together. And that really is why collaboration is so much fun because everybody feels it. That's always the fear is that someone is going to play you a song. And in your mind, as the song is going by, you're like, oh, this is boring. This is horrible, whatever. And then they get done with it. They're like, that's the song I wrote, and my sister.
Yeah.
And years ago. And it's just this is the most important song I could have ever written. And in your mind, you're like, oh man, this thing is fucking boring. You can't do that. It really just has to work as a song for the listener. It can't just work for the person that's singing it, So I never do. I don't ever put any more weight into the song. If I think it's heavy, well, that's fine. But it's supposed to be the that thinks it's heavy and
right. You can't prescribe that. You can't be in charge of making them feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's wonderful talking to you. I think they're going to shut down Instagram on us here, but you were so easy and you're a great listener. I could see exactly why you're going to continue to make cool music and do cool acting things out there. So good luck to you, man. I hope I see you in real life somewhere, but if I don't, this is great for me.
Yeah,
really
appreciate it. Yeah, big fan.
Thank you. Yeah,
appreciate it. Enjoy the Miami jungle that you're in right now. I hope you have fun there.
And we're going to go outside and look and see if a fire is just down the road. If it is, we'll escape.
Okay, bye, Wayne.
Okay, bye. Oh no, what do we do now?
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse podcast, and thanks to Wayne Coyne and Joe Keery for time traveling from 2020 for this episode. It was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.